Hi, everyone.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Nikki.
It's good to see everyone tonight. It's like we're having dinner. It's kind of fun.
I think it's going to be a big dinner. We're probably going past the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, I won't tell the Illinois governor if you don't.
I don't tell him much.
He won't listen anyway. It doesn't
No, probably
matter.
not.
My name's Bill.
Lois, what's happening? Lady, you're in. And listen, your audio sounds awesome. Look at you. You're an expert.
My husband has a brand new computer and I have an old computer, so I'm having to use his now.
Well, now that's an excuse to go shopping, it sounds like to me.
Well, he didn't sound like he was agreeing with that.
He wasn't doing it. Chris Peterson, I see you in the chat. How are you on Long Island tonight? I hope you can figure out how to take yourself on mute because I'd love to hear your beautiful accent tonight. There's Chris's ceiling. There she is.
There's Chris. Greetings, one and all. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
I'm awesome.
All right. We are live. We are live not only on Zoom, but we are also live on YouTube, and it is live streaming for everyone in the world to see. We are going to save this and post it out on our YouTube. It's actually going to be my YouTube channel because our society doesn't have its own YouTube channel, but we will be publishing this for posterity's sake. So be aware that anything you say or do can and will be published on YouTube forever. We will let Nikki decide as we get started. She will be able to decide who's going to speak and if we're all going to stay muted or if she's going to open it up for questions. We'll play that as it goes along. And I am going to stall for just another couple of minutes. I know two very specific people are trying to actively join, and so we're going to let them have just another second to get in. So we will begin with our presentation with Nikki here in just a minute.
I forgot my drink.
You want to go grab it?
I just saw Scott has
You can have
his,
some
and
of
I was
mine.
like, I wonder if I should have gotten my drink.
Yeah. You can have some of mine. I'll share.
Okay, good.
Nikki, do you not have staff at home that just goes and gets it for you?
Yeah. Oh, the staff leaves at 6.
The staff leaves at 6.
I get my own whiskey after 6, okay?
Me too, yeah.
I don't know. Nothing about that statement is true. I don't even drink the whiskey.
And you don't even have staff, so there we go.
I have negative staff. I am the staff. And by staff, I mean me.
Yeah.
My husband is in Detroit this week. And luckily we have not had football practice this week. So it's been good. It's been balanced.
All right. Well, I believe we have people on under iPhone, and so I am going to do a bit of introduction, and then we're going to get this party started. So thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jacob Braun. I recognize many of you on the screen here, but I'm Jacob Braun, and I'm the current president for the Heart of Illinois Daylilies Society, located centrally out of Peoria, Illinois, but we cover anybody in the general region who wants to be a member of our society. We're mostly a social club, but we do like to have an annual presentation here in October where we work with somebody like a known personality in the daylily world or a hybridizer or a combination of both. And that's what we get with Nikki this evening. For those of you who
Yeah,
don't
you
know
get the
Nikki,
personality, all right. That's what you're getting.
Speaking of, for those of you who don't know Nikki, Nikki is a personal friend. She is a wonderful human being, and she is the epitome of what I would call a daylily nut. And we are excited to have her with us this evening. She is probably the one and only guilty party when it comes to my personal involvement with daylilies and the society. So thanks a lot for that, Nikki. And
My pleasure. My pleasure. You're amazing.
and beyond that, she has tons of experience in her life that has come from daylilies, and we're really excited to hear about how daylilies have been a journey for her in her life. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and mute my screen and my microphone, and we're going to let Nikki share her screen when she's ready. And so those of you on a phone or tablet type device, if you swipe on your phone left or right, you may miss what she's presenting. So just swipe back the opposite direction to get her back. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and let her queue up and get going. And if you need anything, open the chat and say something. Raise your hand using the raise my hand feature on Zoom, and we'll take it from there. Nikki, go for it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks again to the Heart of Illinois Daylily Society for asking me to come into your computer screens or your telephones today and to talk about my crazy journey in daylilies. The excerpt that you see on the screen right now, and I'm happy to provide this presentation to Jacob as well afterward, if anybody would like to enjoy it afterward, or if you missed something, or maybe someone comes in late, we can provide that as well as a link if you'd like. But this is one of the very first blogs that I ever wrote about daylilies, and this is actually a photo of my very first adult garden in the very first home that I ever owned. This was my great aunt's home that they built from her and her first husband actually built this home. And when she passed away, I was the only great grandchild at that time. And so I got to inherit this home. And it was a home that I spent a lot of my childhood in. My parents both worked when I was young. And so I spent my summers when I was not in school with my grandmother and with my great aunt. And this story, the whole blog is called Enamored. And I have to say an extra special thanks to Jacob for the idea for this presentation. Before COVID, I gave probably 30 presentations a year, 2 or 3 a month about daylilies of a couple of dozen different topics. And I love to take photographs of daylilies, so I could pretty much whip up a presentation in whatever kind of genre, you know, that somebody wants to hear about. But Jacob said, you know, why don't you tell me about Nikki, you know, and like, how did she get to where she is? And I really don't know that that's a question anyone has ever asked me. And so this was a really cool presentation to put together. And I kind of thought, this is where my daylily journey started as a kid. And hopefully you've had some time to read that. It is really the story of me learning to just go head first into the daylilies, despite really what everyone else thought about my size or my place or my time. And so that's a really fun photo to revisit. I have the hard copy here as well. You know, when you go back 25 years in experiences, not everything is digital. So you have to like look at photo albums and try to find, you know, what's there. But this is the original photo that I took with my 35mm camera of those daylilies the summer I inherited that property. And that moment really spoke to me. I had forgotten about those daylilies. You know, I went to high school, I went to college, I kind of had some other things going on. And when I moved into this house after college, that really connected me to a part of my life that I had truly forgotten about. So it was a good connection for me. And you can see the rest of this story on my blog. It is at A Girl in Her Garden, and out there is 12 years now of daylily haiku and photos and stories and pictures of my daylily adventures. So you can check that out if you like afterward. I titled the presentation Tapestry. And if somebody could, if there's any questions that you have as I'm going along, I would love for this to be a conversation as much as it is just like me talking at you for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so. If you have questions or you have a relatable story, or maybe I will share a memory that we share together, I would love to hear how your stories dovetail in with mine as well. This tapestry that I brought tonight is a story of my journey through the places that I've visited as a member of the Daylily Society and as someone being involved with the society beyond just getting the journal. And so there's my contact information. If you don't have it and you would like it, if you want to reach out after the presentation, there's my email. You can also find me on Facebook and message through there if you'd like. The tapestry really is in nearly every region of the United States. These represent some of the major cities that I've visited in the last 20 years, developing this tapestry of my gardening life. And certainly not everywhere that I've been speaking about daylilies is on here, but I tried to revisit a lot of the memorable locations. And Chris Peterson's on the line. I have a star on Long Island, had been to Long Island a few times judging shows and visiting them for the national convention. And those are memories that you'll see in this presentation as well. So all of these miles and all of these cities and all of these welcoming clubs and regions and people have really contributed to the perspective that I have, not only as a member of the Daylily Society, but just kind of as like a normal, crazy daylily person, I guess. So there's two sides of that, like I just kind of divided out. There's a side of me that in the late 90s somehow ended up at a Christmas banquet for a daylily club in Southeast Michigan. My husband and I we weren't married yet, but we were living in Detroit, working. We both had our first major jobs out of college, which both of us, well, I still have mine. He just left his this year. But there we were living in the suburbs of Detroit. And I ended up at this Christmas banquet. I saw an ad for it in the actual newspaper when you used to actually read for the garden calendar in the actual printed newspaper. I don't know about you, but I look a little petrified in that photo, not quite sure, you know, like what the next 25 years is going to bring for that little girl in that photo. But somehow from that banquet table, and this is a part of this presentation that really tugged at me in all the right ways, because both of those ladies that I'm sitting with at that table are both gone now. Kathleen and Sharon have both passed away, and man, those are my two first daylily friends. And that night is a time I won't ever forget. And somehow I ended up from that girl at the table to speaking from the podium at the national convention as the national president. I'm occasionally on television. There I am in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, talking to the local television station about what was going on in Hattiesburg at the time. So my journey as a society citizen is one journey that we could talk about, but like the Nikki that's really just a gardener and a collector and a photographer and a mom and a wife and a crazy friend and a loyal supporter. You know, there's kind of two journeys really. And so I tried to pick a middle path between those two, because I think some of you will want to talk about my journey in the society, and others, many of you on the line have lived that life with me in the society. So you already know that story. So the other part might be more interesting. So if you have any questions, again, or if you want to interject anything, please feel free to take yourself off mute, or you can raise your hand or throw something at the screen, or somehow contact Jacob to let him release your voice from the land of mute. that would be fine. I don't mind if you interrupt. We do have a limited amount of time because some of you, I haven't seen your faces in so long, and just to have you as a captive audience, I could talk all night, but I will try to keep it short. I've kept the slides short in number so that we don't go over too long and Scott doesn't have to refill his scotch for the evening. So these are some photos from my home garden this year. And Lois, you might not need a refill either. We'll try to just make it a 3-finger evening. Okay, that's it. So we'll do that. These are photos from my garden this year. I live in Warden, Illinois, for those of you who might not know. This is near where I was born and raised. After my 13 years in Detroit for working, doing the corporate thing in Detroit, we moved back home, as they say. My son, who's now 15, was about to start first grade, and we didn't want to do that life in the suburbs of Detroit. And so we picked up and we brought our home and our pets and my entire garden and our jobs, and we brought it back to this area. I'm about 30 miles from my mom, who is still here living in my childhood home. And so we're close enough, but yet far enough away as well. So we have been here since 2011. This garden that you see here was built from absolute scratch dirt. We had this house built that we're in right now, and there wasn't a single blade of grass when we moved in. So all of the photos from my garden that you'll see, all of these photos are less than 8 summers old. All of this stuff, my collection is now it's about 400 cultivars, and those rotate out, about 25–30% of them rotate out every year, and I bring new ones in. And so sorry, after I unmuted you, there you go. Lots of facets to the daylily universe, right? And even looking at all of the people who are on the phone, you all kind of have your own niche of things that you do. Some of you are exhibitors, some of you are great writers. I see an incredible graphic designer on the line. Some of you are amazing cooks. Some of you are floral designers. There's a spot for everyone in the daylily universe, right? And some of my favorite spots to sit in here are photography and writing and exhibitions. If I had to look at the list of all of the things that I could do in the daylily universe, those are the places that I would want to, at least from my personal, my social desires, that's what I would want to do. So I leave this here so maybe you can think about what your niche is. How do you fit into your local club? How are you fitting into your local universe of daylily people, and where are your strengths, and where could you be looking for friends that have these strengths that might also be interested in daylilies? Because all of these pieces put together make up that big tapestry that I'm talking about, especially when you connect with people. Speaking about writing and photography, these are two neat photos, real personal photos to me. I spent a few years not too long ago concentrating very heavily on getting daylily pieces published in national magazines, and we were real successful in getting major pieces in Garden Design and in Chicagoland Gardening, in Garden Gate. We got to contribute to a great piece in the New York Times Magazine as well. And my favorite photography accomplishment so far was finally landing the cover of the Daylily Journal. There you can see the photo that I took at Floyd Cove with Karen Pierce. You can see the little friend sneaking out there from behind the pedal. One of my favorite all-time photos, and Meg Ryan actually thought so too. So after many, many years of swinging and missing, I landed the cover of the journal. So for those photographers on the line, I say keep sending those awesome shots to Adele, our editor, because she has a great eye for photos as well. And she would probably love to see the photos that you think are great cover shots. So those are two real meaningful accomplishments to me. Talking about accomplishments feels weird and awkward at the same time. Anyone who's ever heard me talk knows that I talk about myself the least. So it's probably cool that we're doing this on Zoom, because I may or may not have hives about talking about myself or talking about what's meaningful to me. But I appreciate this learning experience anyway, about learning to share directly what actually is important to me. So that's a fun part of the Daylily universe, is I can use skills that aren't, I respect hybridizers at a completely different level, because my brain just doesn't think in those terms. Like, I can't follow that through from beginning to end. I don't know what it is about that process, but I really admire those who are super successful at that year after year, because that's just not my niche. And floral design, well, I tried it, and that's not my niche either. You know, I'm good at ordering food. I'm good at catering food, but I found where I fit in with my own personal skills, and that's made my daily journey a whole lot more exciting. Melding what I like outside of the garden with what's inside the garden, and writing and photography are two of those things. Daylily shows are also something that I absolutely adore. These are just some really cool older photos that I found of Daylily shows. You can see on it should still be the right of your screen. You see, I have my son Carter on my hip there. He's now 6'2", 260, running the O-line at football. So he has been coming to Daylily shows for a long time, but now he could probably carry me on his hip these days. So I tried to pull out some older photos and some photos of people who you might know as well. There I am at the top, winning Best in Show with Brookwood Wow 2 years in a row. The club, I don't know if anybody from Southern Michigan is on the line. If you are, you can back me up with this story. There was actually, they wanted to retire Brookwood Wow at one point to prevent that nearly perfect every time flower from competing in the show. Bless their hearts, it didn't work because, you know, it kept coming back and kept winning. But Brookwood Wow is one of my all-time favorite show flowers, and these are just some fun. That the one on the top right is winning extra large and miniature in the same show. We thought that was funny. I think that was in Springfield, for those of you who might be on the line from there. And there is Girl on Fire, winning as best seedling, and then going on to win Best in Show as well at that show on the left. So some of my most favorite experiences as far as daylilies go are involved in shows. I love to travel to judge shows, and I think I like competing more than I like judging. But it is, the whole thing is super, super fun. We'll see some pictures from the Long Island Daylily Society's Daylily show. Their show, I still think of, I don't know how many shows I've been to in 20 years, but I will never forget the look and feel of the Long Island show, with all of their gorgeous blue bottles and floral displays, and we'll see that later in the show. So that's shows.
Hey, Nikki.
Yeah.
Real quick, we did have a question in the chat. How much property do you have?
Oh, I have negative property. I have a little tiny city lot where like 250 by 275, I think. It's tiny. It's just under a quarter of an acre. So it's a regular size tiny city lot. That's a great question. I have some drone photos. Jacob and Jim have been here a couple of years to take some drone photos of my little postage stamp. And I'm what they call an intense gardener. That might have a dual meaning for some of you, but I really grow like I'm a square inch gardener, not necessarily a square foot gardener. So stuff's packed in pretty well here in my little postage stamp of spot. So I give all of those people hope. And this also is an official display garden as well. And I have had bus tours through my tiny yard as well. So it is possible with even the smallest garden to provide an entertaining space for people to hang out. So that's a great question. Thanks for that. Is that the only one in chat, Jacob?
Yes, so far.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. That's a good thing. Jacob will watch the chat and we'll do that if you don't want to take off mute. That's fab. Okay, so the number one question that I always get, and this comes several times a year, is how do you take daylilies to the show? And I think this is also the part of showing daylilies, like actually cutting the whole scape and having to transport it somewhere is probably the most difficult thing. And, you know, this is like, you know, asking somebody what the best workout routine is. Everybody has their own methods for doing this. I have tried a lot of them, failed at many of them. And this is the one that I've stuck with for the last few years is pool noodles cut into pieces. And then I've duct taped all of those noodles together like a super noodle, if that makes sense. And so, because if you don't, then all the individual noodles will kind of fly out there, because I put about 6 inches of water in the bottom of that bucket, for weight. A lot of people forget that, yeah, the scapes might not need water so much driving from here to there, but the weight sure helps out as you're hitting every rock and pebble on the way to the show. So I take about 6 of these 5-gallon buckets to the show. That's about as many scapes as I can handle when I go to the show. The most I've ever entered in one show was 51 scapes. I have gone to a show with just 1 scape before too, after a terrible night of thunderstorms, and the 1 scape was going out of mere principle at that point. So this is how I get the scapes to the show. So this is from this year. So I just leave the photo. I thought I'd leave it here in case somebody wanted to ask. So how do you like go from like, so you just don't show up at like a banquet and then decide that you're going to stay a member of an organization for a couple of decades and then serve at a volunteer level at crazy rates for years. Like nobody, how does that actually happen? This is me. I can tell you that this is the moment where that conversation started, standing on this little dock in Columbus, Ohio during the national convention at that time. And couple people stood with me on that dock that day and talked about the future of communication in the organization and growth. And neither of those people are still with us now, but that was the day that I think that the conversation was had, that it was worth sticking with and it was worth volunteering for. And so that's the day. And how I get there is through all of these people. And of course, I can't pick, I could have done 40 of these slides alone, and no one wants to look at that. I just wanted to do this as a representation of just some of the crazy souls that have, you know, I meet, and you meet a dozen people a day, hundreds of people in a year you meet or interact with. And a lot of the people on this slide have impacted my life or my journey in cool ways. I just actually talked on the lower right, that's Martin Kaminsky. Some of you might know some of Martin's extra early cultivars or some of his very reliable full season rebloom cultivars. He has left the United States several years ago, about a decade now. He's been in Romania and in Poland, and he just actually emailed this week. That is me presenting him with his Anglerth medal that he won at a that's for an outstanding seedling at a Region 2 meeting. So I just saw some of these photos. There's Tommy Maddox and I at the bottom at some random meeting somewhere down there where he lives, and Nan Ripley in the middle, and you know, Jacob Henry. Doc is at the top. We lost Doc now, probably maybe near now 2 years ago. Just a real fighter in Region 1, Doc Murdoch there. Dolores Burisaw at the top left, that's the lady. If you want to blame anybody, like Jacob blames me for dragging him into this craziness, I blame that lady in the upper left-hand corner of your slide. That's Dolores Borisov. She's the lady that sold me my first hybrid daylilies. She had a booth set up at a craft show. And that's a question I get a lot too, that I have answered, is how did you get into daylilies? How did you find cultivars? And Dolores had a booth at a craft show, and her booth was selling these crazy bundled pieces of onion looking things with tags. And you know, if you're a collector of one thing, it's real easy to become a collector of something else, right? All of you, I know you're nodding your heads. You know, if you collect daylilies, you probably have, you know, there's a paperclip collection, or there's a Super Ball collection somewhere, I know, or you're an antique collector, Lois, or you're, you know, a train collector, or whatever you might be. But Dolores had these daylilies, and they all had their little, you know how those strap tags come now, and she had handwritten their names and their heights and their bloom size, and all of those details were absolutely fascinating. And I had to learn about all of these flowers that had their individual personalities. And Dolores ended up over time selling me so many cultivars in like $20 increments. This is my very early 20s, mid 20s, that I go to Dolores, and I'm like, okay, I need $20 worth of daylilies. And she's like, well, what kind of daylilies do you want? And I say, well, I don't know. I like them all, you know, just whatever, $20, it's fine. And then a couple weeks later, Dolores, so yeah, I have some more space. How about $30 worth of daylilies? And Dolores would say, fine. And she'd bundle up. And so then the zeros just add on as the decades go on as well. But Dolores is the reason that I learned about hybrid daylilies. She taught me how to plant and how to then find more. So that part of my life is totally Dolores's fault. She still lives in the house that she lived in when she sold me those daylilies. She has judged for me in shows that I have invited her to come judge in, and she is happy to tell everyone that I am her fault. So I adore her. She's also been kind of like a surrogate grandma to me, because I have lost my grandparents a long time ago, and Dolores kind of fit that bill for me for a while. So lots of other folks that you see, my dear Mr. Earl Watts there in the upper left, Mel Campbell is there, my friends in Region 10. Man, there I am as the old lady in the photo, standing with a bunch of youth there in Norfolk. And you know, that's a great feeling to stand around all that young energy and know that, you know, those folks are going to be interested. I don't know that I would have done some of these activities at 14 and 15 and 16 that, you know, at one national recently, we had 31 youth. And that's amazing. That's amazing. So I try to take time to drop those folks postcards and contribute to that part of our society when I can, because we're not going to have our energy forever. So Paul Owen and Tim Harrington and Bob Faulkner, the incomparable David Kirchhoff. That's the best photo that I could find of David to put in here with me. National conventions, I'll just get through some of this. These are the place where I think most of my tapestry has been woven, is through these yearly activities. And my first national convention was in 2000. And I actually was the president of the host club in 2002 when we hosted it in Troy, Michigan. And that's really where I cut my teeth on learning how to be tough through Hal Rice and Armand Delisle. Those are the two men that really helped me understand what it should be like to run an event and run a daylily club and also be productive and professional. And but learning that from two gruff, retired, high military type men didn't teach me all of the grace that I might have needed to conduct those tasks. So going through all of these national conventions, I just pick up new pieces of the tapestry and events along the way. This is, if you've never been to one, some of you might recognize this. This is in Valdosta many years ago. This is what a banquet looks like, where you get to eat with the break bread with all of those people that you don't get to see often. You get to stand in gardens and listen to people tell their own stories. And this is the best part. And this is really where I take the rest of this journey in the presentation, is reliving the mosaic of who I became in the Daylily Society through all of these places and people that touched it along the way. And I'll never forget Nancy Eller standing in her garden during the national convention. That's Nancy right in the middle. And I just giving a master class, a graceful master class in her own yard about how to evaluate your own things and how to be tough about that. And the crowd just grew around her listening to that, and she really commanded that audience. I came across these crazy pictures. My darling Kimberly McCutcheon on the right drove me around in more than one bucket than I care to admit. This is before another crazy Northern Mecca event. On the left, I think some of you might enjoy that photo, and some of you might recognize where I am in that photo. That's at a Maid-Rite in Iowa with Lee Pickles, who, if you ever read anything that Lee Pickles wrote, he loved his Maid-Rite sandwiches. And I had the opportunity to speak to a group in Iowa once, and Lee was there, and we went to that Maid-Rite, and all the Daylily people filled up that entire counter of people in that place, and everyone laughed, and Heidi and Charles Douglas were there, and Nan Ripley was there, and Don Lovell was there. And gosh, to hear Lee Pickles talk about eating Maid-Rites as a younger person, yeah, treasure moments to hear those kinds of things. This one's a little blurry. I think the evening was a little blurry as well. But this is what it's like at those national conventions, sitting around a table with people like, and whether you know them or not, you end up at a table with Mort Morse and Jamie Gossard and Meg Ryan and Sandy Holmes. I mean, there are 4 stout medal winners sitting around that table. So memories like that. I'll never forget the parrot in the garden as well during the Ohio National. That bird said more coherent words than some other folks I was with that weekend. The bird was like 30 years old. Anybody remember the bird? It was, yeah, Lois remembers the bird. Scott saw it too. The bird, it was like a retired tiki lounge parrot, and it had like a dude's name. It was like Fritz, or some crazy name. And the bird was talking to the people, and you can see a lot of magic in this photo though, right? This is a moment, I have the photo and I can look back at the digital photo, but it's one of those memories that you go back to even without a photo. The children who are here at this national convention, connecting with the garden owners, connecting with this crazy parrot, this really encompasses what it's all about, is having these moments with all of these different contexts of your life. These kids have a different life, and that mom does her own thing, and that's Donna in the back. She does her own job, but at this moment, you get to all gather together here and make this tapestry together. Some of you might also remember being in Baton Rouge for the national convention. And these are FEMA trailers. This is modern history or modern tragedy. I'm not sure, not a discussion, but just a point. This is one of those moments where you just stand and the whole universe is silent when you realize what you're standing and looking at, and how that ripple, is affecting the world, and how these moments still affected the world today. But we learned this was empty land next to Ken and Melissa's, and all of these, the Begnodes. Some of you might know him from Little Black Buds and Cajun Collaboration and Frosted Vintage Ruffles, an incredible hybridizer. Gasoline and Matches is an amazing cultivar of his as well. But anyway, at Ken and Melissa's house, these are all the unused FEMA trailers just rotting in a property next to his. And gosh, you get a moment to stand there, you know, you see things on the news or you hear things and you're like, well, it's over there. And but like the smells and the sounds and like the sight of all of that, that was just a crazy moment of modern history clashing, you know, real life versus collapsing with daylily life in a crazy moment. So yeah, buses break down. A few of you on the call have the experience of being on a bus tour when you have technical difficulties, when the bus gets stuck, or the bus needs to be towed out of somewhere, or the bus breaks down more than once on a tour. This is one of those ultimate moments of the universe putting all the right pieces in the place at the right time. Our bus broke down. This is in Region 2. Our bus broke down. We were stuck at Kingwood for an extended period of time. And I had the incredible opportunity of a golf cart ride with Charles Applegate. And some of you might know Charles Applegate's in Region 2, at least, he's legendary for a porcelain base white daylilies. And Mr. Applegate took me on a ride around the garden. I was the regional president at the time, and I was a little distraught about being stranded. If you can imagine me distraught, I don't know if you could do that or not, but I was distraught about being stranded, and Charles took me on a ride around the garden, and he was a curator there. He's no longer with us either. Died just months after this summer. But he pointed out all the interesting things in the garden and took the time to drive me around on the golf cart and show me the things that he loved and the things that he didn't like and the things that he knew he wasn't going to have the time to do. So that is another moment that I will always remember, that everything happens for a reason. This is the moment in my tapestry at like 35. It took me that many years at that time to realize that you really just need to be quiet and believe that every moment is the moment that it is supposed to be, because I got to enjoy that time with him in that golf cart, telling me all of those stories that I would have never had the opportunity to hear. I also never would have felt the emotion. This is probably a moment where I felt the most emotion in my journey. And you could almost hear, yeah, it was wild. It was wild in this garden. You might remember this national convention in Columbus. This garden owner dedicated a whole bunch of beds in her display garden to solely women hybridizers. And all of these beds and all of these signs that you see are wood burned with the name of the female hybridizer that is represented by those cultivars. And without my own self, you know, not like, no one's crying about it right now. I'm not crying, you're crying. But this is an emotional moment where you see, you know, sisters standing in front of their sister's plaque who's no longer with us, and husbands and wives with a daughter whose plaque was there, who's no longer with us. And it was a real electric moment to see the folks in Region 2 and the national visitors be able to see all of these women hybridizers represented this way. So I can also tell you that everyone was very quiet and very absorbing of that moment. I don't think that moment was lost on anybody. So that was something that I'll always remember as well. Yeah, so sometimes you sit around a pool when you're on a garden tour. Sometimes it's viewed as an appropriate action and sometimes it's not, but you never miss an opportunity to do it. this is one of those times that this is at Charles and Cynthia Lucius's house, actually, on the national convention. And it was the last stop on the end of a really hot 2-day tour. And the pool, gosh, not sure I'd ever seen a more beautiful pool at someone's home at that time. So I took the opportunity to sit down and enjoy it. And a lot of people joined me, and we had a great time around the pool. And that's a conversation I won't ever forget either. A few folks in that photo are no longer with us either. But those are the moments you have to grab onto them when they happen, and you have to get out of your homes to enjoy them. And I'm really looking forward and hopeful that next year will look different for us, and we'll be able to relive some of those moments. Some of you might know Nick Ballish. This is the last summer that I had to enjoy Nick Ballish, and that's Kimberly McCutcheon as well. Had the opportunity to visit Floyd Cove before Pat and Grace left for California. This is during the national convention and in Orlando. And it's the first time I think that the idea of daylily commerce really punched me in the face. And this is when Born to Run was a brand new cultivar. And I think I stood there and counted that there were literally hundreds of fans. And I was kind of new to the Daylily Society from a commerce nursery perspective like this. I had visited a whole lot of home gardens and some more farmy type gardens, but this was really going to the national convention that year was really my first chance to really get in there as a visitor. So I really got to, see what that looks like and become overwhelmed at the thought of it. I got to see Daylily World when it was in Florida, and Daylily World after it moved to Kentucky. So lucky enough along the way to be able to see both of those locations. The prairies, the scenery, all of this really just waking up this morning. This is, I spent the weekend in the trailer that Sandy and Mike Holmes used to have on their property, a previous version of that camper. And I needed an escape one weekend. Sometimes you have to leave and just go somewhere where it's quiet, where somebody doesn't know, where no one knows where you are, and no one cares what time you go to bed. And Sandy and Mike were my safe, my fugue spot for that adventure. And I was at the farm alone, and I woke up in the morning, and the sun, as I opened the door of the trailer, and I saw the sun coming up over their seedling bed. And this is just one view. Of course, the garden looks a little bit different now, but this is that morning. I had driven in the night before, and that's one of those moments. You have to visit hybridizer gardens too, and get into these seedling fields and see what they think the future looks like. Nicole DeVito's in Florida. I'm not sure that there's a neater magical place and a more magical person than Nicole. This evening, as we watched Dreamer kind of munch on the grass there, the sprinklers came up over the gardens, and that was a pretty cool evening. You get to share those drinks and those moments with people. Then, you show up at the Waldrops, and there's a cash cow in the garden, and you're not quite sure what to do with that, but you see it along the way, and you ask Bill the story behind the cow, and no one can quite tell a story like Mr. Bill Waldrop. So if you have an opportunity to allow him to share you a story along the way, you will be better for it, because he's a great conversationalist, one of the best. I absolutely adore him. Chris might remember this photo. Lois might too. This is Memory Jordan's famous satellite dish gazebo. You can see the satellite dish there, and this moment is in the presentation because this is the moment where I learned that not all daylily people are good people. Because this was when they hosted the national convention on the East Coast. And while all of the garden owners were at a garden owner function for the convention away from their gardens, a group of people, and this is way before we all had Ring doorbells and cell phone security systems and cell phones really. And someone came into Memory's garden while everybody was at that garden owners event and ravaged a few of her beds and stole a lot of plants. Right there under our nose, 600 people are in the area to see daylilies. And during that event, somebody seriously pulled the gank on her garden right then and there, right in front of everyone. And so there was a lot of learning and a lot of talking and a lot of discovery in those moments too. But I'll never forget that satellite dish gazebo. Memory also is the one who digs her daylilies in her bare feet. So you have that. You know, if you've ever been to this garden, I saw somebody roll down that hill and fall right into that pond. And I leave this slide in the presentation because every time I see the photo on the tour, lady taking a photo, walking backwards and bit it and rolled all the way down that hill and into that pond and and then got back on the bus, then covered in all of that. And we actually took her back to the hotel. But those kind of moments happen on tour as well. And you just kind of have to take that in stride. It was not me that rolled down the hill and into the pond. And this photo was taken before she rolled into it. But that's a sight as well. Those moments teach me grace. I'm convinced that my entire daylily journey is here to do nothing but teach me grace. Somewhere along the way, I was not in the right line when they handled out patience or grace, but I'm getting there. I'm 48 and I'm getting there, and I'll get there through laughing at people who fall in ponds during daylily tours. Maybe, I'm not sure, but that's that. Paul Owens. This is Paul Owens, not Paul Owens. It's Paul Owens property, possessive. I think a lot of folks add an S or take away an S when it's not necessary. But this is, you can see the swing up there on the hill a little bit before it was so developed. One of those gardens that is near perfection, just near perfection. If you can ever get out to slightly different, you should. Tim Bell's, I have been to very few daylily gardens where I am compelled to actually eat off the grass. But this is a garden where like someone is down there with a rat tail comb, like separating those blades of grass. I kid you not. And I've been to Tim's a few times, and every time I've been there, I have left feeling like I should just move into a yurt somewhere, because this is a place you should visit for all of the companion plants and the design and the meandering and the lake and the little bridge and the house and the kids and Tim and all of that. You should get to Georgia, Southern Georgia, and see lots of interesting things. But this is a moment where, yeah, I didn't think a home garden could actually, like, the edges could cut you, but they do. Alpharetta, Georgia. This is Mark and Patty Franklin. Just a beautiful spot of people enjoying daylilies. One of the best photos I think I've ever taken of people enjoying daylilies. This could be like a painting. And Mark and Patty work really hard. Two really good people. You meet a lot of good people, and Mark and Patty have been friends of mine for a while. Mark, when we have auctions, I like to pretend I'm scared of Mark in auctions. I don't have a wallet compared to what but Mark and I like to bid against each other, and sometimes he's kind and lets me win, and most times he's not. But they are my friends nonetheless, and they have shared a lot from their garden for a lot of my projects over the years. So a beautiful spot. That's MP Flowers. You can see that online. I know I've been on the East Coast a lot, but I had my breath taken away in New Mexico. This is the garden of Donna Peck. Many of you, and Dr. Richard Peck. Some of you might remember Donna Peck as a director many years ago. Donna was responsible for a lot of real steps forward in our procedural stuff for the Daylily Society. This is her garden. It is unbelievable. And I was able to judge their Albuquerque Daylily show a couple of years ago. You can see the rain coming in over the mountains there. It was stunning. If you ever see me leave Illinois, it will be for the West, that's for sure. There is Chris Peterson will probably recognize that. This is from the Long Island Daylily Show, and I'm getting almost toward the end of the presentation now. Just a few more slides. I want to show you some daylilies, some actual daylilies that are my favorite for the year. What I'm talking about, things you might not have seen before, but I didn't want to leave without showing what a small group of people can do a really big event. And the Long Island Daylily Society has been around for a really long time. And in the several events that I've had to work with them, that's a club that really knows how to work together. And I had the opportunity to judge this show. They had a floral design section. They also maintain a massive garden at the planting fields nearby. And it's just a really fun club, all around fun club. And I love the aesthetic that they put on during their show. And this is just a show that conveys all of the beautiful madness that is around a daylily show to me. So tell your friends out there, Chris, that I gave him a shout out today, especially Pam and Luann and Joan and Jean and all of those awesome folks out there. There's the old lady with the youth again. David Kirchhoff is in there too. He's not the old lady, I am. And there's all of those birds behind him. They were keeping live birds out in the garden during the national convention. And I thought that was a really cool idea, but this is another one of those events. Look at these faces, friends. These are the faces and these are the people that you're gonna see in the journal for years to come. And it's really, I try to make it a priority to send postcards, send cards, send a picture, connect with them on Snapchat. I follow a few of them on TikTok, you know, just to keep a thread of connection. You know, some of these kids are like, they could be second and third generation hybridizers, and even showing just a little bit of interest is a really good idea. So let me zip through a couple of daylilies that you're going to need to put on your wish list. If Nikki had a recommended list of daylilies that you need, first it starts with Brookwood Wow. I absolutely would recommend Someplace Special as well. And these are daylilies in all price ranges. I didn't want to come out swinging with all of my favorite 2019s or 2018s because not all of them are really the cat's meow. So I wanted to show you what I think is the cat's meow that you might not already be growing. Someplace Special is in the pedigree of a whole lot of interesting things that you're enjoying in the modern daylily world. And I think there's still some untapped potential there if you like that form and color. It does an incredible job with that wide green throat. Suburban Grand Canyon, I think with the convention coming up in Mississippi, I think you're going to be hearing more about the daylilies with the suburban prefix lately coming in the next year. Mr. Earl Watts has been hybridizing for longer than I have been alive, I can tell you that. And I don't know that if I had to want to learn from anyone, I would probably listen to anything that Mr. Earl had to say first. And his Suburban Grand Canyon is one of the most unique daylilies, consistent opener, registered, performing to size, deep southern born daylily that does wonderful for me in mid-Illinois. And it's this lighter purple that you see here on the entirety of this plant is almost black in the morning. So this form open wide in the morning, but all of that is near a deep black plum. And then as the flower stretches open, it turns into that cool lavender, and man, it stays open until it's dark. And it's one of the most unique things I grew this year. Lillian's Hot and Spicy. The eye for me, what you see for the eye zone there is very accurate to me in my garden. The outer petal and sepal colors are actually a little bit more cinnamon or a little bit more orangey in real life, but it's actually prettier. But the camera actually caught the bluish purple of the petal and sepals really close to how my eye was seeing it. And this one rebloomed, although the bud count got much smaller as it rebloomed. It sent up 3 sets of scapes for me here in Illinois. So it's on the thing to watch list. Anastasia, this daylily is from the 80s. Yeah, probably the first sculpted daylily to not be registered as such. Also one of Jeff Salter's first sculpted daylilies as well. And Anastasia will always have a place in my garden. The green throat, because the green throat stays all day, all day. The bud count is low, but every single one of these flowers is worth it. You could bite it. It's that thick. I love it. Sorry for that. I just got way excited about Anastasia. Yeah, so, you know, I'm not really a bandwagon kind of gal. I don't get on, I don't know what it is about me. When the 49ers were the bandwagon, I don't like the 49ers. You know, it's just one of those things. So I'm not typically a bandwagon girl, but I got on this one because it performs really well in my garden. It just recently won some national awards. It's my kind of color pink, and it performs like crazy here. Not all of the cupcakes do, and not all of Tim Harrington's line in general do. And I say that just because I'm putting my words here on these plants. So I'm going to tell you the scoop about them. But this one is a beast. And it's what I call my color pink. Like if I have a color pink, this is the color pink that I like. So one of the cupcakes that I think is worth the hype. 2, that if you can get your hands on them, they are worth their weight in gold. Cat Blue, gosh, it multiplies like the slowest jar of molasses that is frozen and doesn't pour out. But oh, I want to just eat every one of the blooms that opened on it, even though it's still 2 fans and it's been 2 fans for 5 years. Let me tell you, very few plants get that forgiveness in my tiny amount of real estate, but these 2 do. Paul Sain's prize, that crazy green, is insane. Oscar Wilde is a crazy double that I think you need to get your hands on. I don't see it too many places. I actually sold it for the first time in my sale this August, and so it's in a few more gardens. Royal Candy Crush is also something I think that you need. This is a Region 2 born daylily. Man, it's cool. It's almost like gray some mornings, like dark charcoal gray. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen. Worth looking at. It went to the show and won Best Large Section. Crazy story. It was actually a mistake. The seller sent me this one as a mistake instead of something else that I had ordered, but I grew it anyway, took it to the show and won the darn section. So happy accidents, Bob Ross, absolutely happen. 3-in-1 without the oil. Yeah, if you can find this one, this is Dan Bachman's best. It's so big and it's so, the quilling on the sepals, it's like a razor's edge. It's so cool. This picture was taken by me in Norfolk. I called in my last 2 favors with Dan Bachman to get a double fan from him after that convention. And now I grow it in my own garden. So this is one of Dan Bachman's that you should hunt for and find. Special Candy, I showed you my favorite cupcake. This is my favorite candy. Special Candy, by far, heads and more heads above any of the other candies. This is the one that's worth that. I grow things like this. When I talk about being an intense gardener, yeah, I mean, there are name tags for every one of those plants, printed, labeled, all the details you need, but this is how I grow them. Couple of last slides. Little Miss Sunshine is a small from the East Coast as well. Very, very, very high bud count. I think there's a lot of potential in that. for a lot of other things. Incredible plant habit, but it's got a pretty face, but I can name 4 or 5 other daylilies with a pretty face that looks similar to that, but nowhere. I mean, just look at all of the buds. That's an aerial view and an overhead view of one scape, all of those buds. Brookwood Black Kitten on the right. You need 2 Brookwoods, Brookwood Wow and Brookwood Black Kitten. Those are the 2 that you need. My last couple, if you're going to take a walk on the wild side from things, I think Sigourney is the best in its class. It's amazing and really is a new frontier in that. My entree, last story, I promise, my entree into administration, if you will. Many of you might remember that the Region 2 Winter Symposium is one of the first of its kind. We've been running that symposium for tens and tens and tens of years. And many years ago, that was hosted or run by Kurt Hansen in the Cleveland area. And I was living in Detroit at the time. And Heidi Douglas, who at that time was still Heidi Willett, and she was in charge of the auction for the Region 2 Winter Symposium. And Heidi and I became friends in those late 90s, 98, 99, 2000, into 2002 for the Troy Convention, where I learned about a little bit more about the people and how they work together. And Heidi asked me if I would take over the auction for Region 2's Winter Symposium. And so that was my very first job. Kurt Hansen and Heidi Douglas, asked me to do that auction. And so that was my first actual job for a region or for the national, was to, and she set a pretty high bar. She was making about 15,000 in those years at each auction. So we did very well. And I remember auctioning off the first pieces of Sigourney that Kurt was releasing to the public, and they were clearly in the 4 digits. And so that was fun, being an auctioneer and seeing this on the cover of his catalog. He did like this kaleidoscope thing. And that's part of this memory as well, is Kurt Hansen was pushing the envelope decades ago. And I just don't think he ever really, I'm not sure he ever got the kudos that he really deserved for taking us administratively and from here to there. I learned a lot from Kurt. We fought a lot over the years as well, but that's what I think people who respect each other sometimes do it that way, passionately. But this cultivar, I think, really changed the way that people thought about daylilies, thought about the way daylily catalogs should look, and also thought a lot about how new daylilies were released to the public and sold at auctions. It was a really cool event. So I learned a lot about that cultivar. Last 1 or 2, high watermark. Judy Davison is a name that, if it's not in your garden now, you should go find 5 Judy Davison cultivars and get them into your gardens. She's got small ones and big ones and all gorgeous ones. The colors, the clarity of color. 2 things get me: saturation and clarity. And I'm not trying to get all semantic with you or, high thinking, but what is it about the daylily that gets you? Is it the movement? Is it the height? Is it the smell? Is it the color? Is it the texture? Is it the form? What is it that sings to you? And for me, it's those 2 things. It's clarity and saturation. And man, Judy Davison, that's 5-star on both of those things for me. And unusual forms aren't even necessarily my cup of tea. But some of these colors have made me reconsider. So that's what I have to recommend is look up Judy Davison. She's got some fun names, some fun forms, some incredible colors, and I can give you a list of things that do well in my garden if you're interested. I live head every night. That's the little bucket that I wheel around with me in my garden. And yes, those of you who garden on more than 1/4 of an acre are snickering at my tiny bucket, because I know some of you are driving tractors to deadhead your gardens, and I love you for it because your plants are growing in my yard. But I wheel around that little cart with my Pinot in the evening, and we live head every night. That's what I do. So if you wonder what I do in the evening, that's my evening therapy. It's how I decompress from athletics. It's how I decompress. I do still work my corporate job 9 to 5 for Ford Motor Company. I do curriculum design and training for purchasing. So this is how I get my therapy, is doing the live heading in the evening. I have introduced several daylilies, some award-winning daylilies. A few of these, 2 of these are achievement medal winners. And some of them are show section winners. 2 of them were introduced for charity purposes only. One of them is named for my dad. One of them is named for my son. And one of them is co-introduced with someone who will be my kindred spirit forever. So my daylily introductions have come from the help of my friends. And all are a nod to something incredibly specific and incredibly meaningful in my life. And that's why I would ever introduce a daylily, were so that I could capture a moment in my garden on a repetitive basis. That's why I would introduce a daylily. So that when I approach that clump in my garden, there's a memory, there's a story, there's a conversation, there's a pause, there's an appreciation. Maybe there's a moment of being breathless about what it might all mean, or how it all fits in, or who's not with you anymore, or why. All of these are all of those moments in time. So that is my hybridizing efforts. My last slide, like, what do you do now? Like, okay, all this journey is great, and your story sounds super fun. And yeah, I told Jacob earlier, this presentation could have been 4,000 slides, and we could have talked all day. And I brought my binder. If somebody, this is a 4-inch binder that is full. This is what my daylily journey is. And if I would have been able to come to you in person and talk to you about my daylily journey, I would have shown you these letters. I would have shown you a poem from Dottie Worrell that she wrote for me. I would have shown you a letter that Dan Hansen wrote, an angry letter that Dan Hansen wrote to me. And then the PS at the end of it, that will make us friends forever. All of those moments are in here. And I hope that you have your own daylily journal and your own daylily journey that looks like this. You have those moments, and you've saved those letters, and you've saved those pictures on the front. This is a photo of my first board meeting as the president of the Daylily Society. There's my official gavel. There's a very important ink pen that somebody very important gave to me for that event. And then there is the agenda book of the first. So it's moments like that. I have a picture on the spine of my friend Nicole Willis from Detroit. Oh, well, she's upside down, but you get the point. There it is. And so that's what my daylily journey is it's in that book, and it's in all of the blog posts, and it's in all of your email inboxes, and it's in all of the dinners that we've shared, and all of the plants that we've traded, and all of your plants that grow in my garden, and all of you in my tapestry. So these are things that you can do if you're interested in being more involved, or doing something different, or finding out how your journey can maybe blossom into something else. If you're not already a member of the American Daylily Society, I would totally ask you to do that. If you join now, you're going to get the whole year next year, all of the beautiful Daylily journals that we have. We've already voted in the popularity poll. I, for some reason, I was guessing that this was going to be later. So make sure that you're voting in the popularity poll as you have the opportunity in your regions. Display gardens, be a judge, get involved in Daylily shows, do Facebook groups. I have a Facebook group called Daylily Social. And if you connect with me on Facebook, I'll get you into Daylily Social, where we've actually formed a virtual Daylily club so that we can all meet in a space. We have Zooms like this. We actually put on exhibition shows. So join Facebook groups. There are YouTube channels out there that are Daylily specific. If you're a video enjoyer, you can watch those. But most importantly, support and visit your local Daylily gardens. That's my last point, is visit those people around you when we can. I understand now, and it is isolating and it is challenging. But I think next summer will look different in many ways. And I look forward to having fun with all of you and being in your gardens and having you in mine. I missed the bus tours and the van tours and the droppers by this year with all of the crazy restrictions. So hang in there, friends. Hang in there, friends. I don't know anything more than you do, but I know that we've already made it through the worst days that we've had so far. So thanks for coming to hang out with me here tonight. Anytime you want to hang out and talk about daylilies, give me a ring, give me a Facebook call. I'm happy, always happy to chat daylilies with friends. So thank you, Jacob, and thank you, Heart of Illinois, oh, wait. I can't say thank you without showing you my favorite garden food. I'll just let you take that in. That's how I wanted to end the presentation, is by showing you my very favorite garden snack. That's Vermont white cheddar, a tiny piece of basil, a very firm cherry tomato drizzled with sun-dried tomato, olive oil. You can put it on a skewer, or you can put it on those little bites. Whole tray gone in minutes, even just if I'm eating them by myself. So that's my favorite garden treat. I didn't want to leave without sharing you at least some food. I would love it if you would email me your garden food slides, because I'm always at a loss of what people can eat with skewers. I think skewers are the next big thing in garden tours. I think it's all going to be skewers next year. All skewers. Take my word for it. Thanks, friends.
Bye, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I don't know if anybody actually has any questions. If they want to stick around and ask questions, we can stay on as long as people want to stay on. But we didn't want the presentation to go too terribly long for those who might be eager to go to bed. So anybody have questions, feel free. Join in. Unmute yourself if you have a question, please.
I didn't have a question, Jacob. It's Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Chris.
Yes, we hear you.
Hi. I didn't have a question, but I beat you. In spending my first time, I went to the Lids Daylily sale. I'd never gone to a meeting. I had only ordered from the Wilds catalog, for years. Made my choices there, and I didn't want to seem cheap, and I didn't know how much daylilies really cost. So I asked one of the members to get me $100 worth of daylilies, and I didn't know what that was going to get me, but I just felt so ignorant, and they did a good job. They really did. But that was, and the next year I did the exact same thing. I did the exact same thing. I was so pleased.
That's awesome.
But that was in 2001, and it was Mayor Miller. I don't know if you've ever met her.
I do. Yes. Yeah.
She was the one that did it for me for a couple of years, picked out daylilies for me, because it was really too hard to decide. And I figured I'd trust her to do that. So
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I was going to ask you what year. I'm glad you said.
It was 2001, and I was only working a part-time teaching job in a private school. So I wasn't making a lot of money. And that was a really big thing for me. But I knew I didn't have a lot of daylilies and I wanted more, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it was a good way to fill my garden with nice plants.
And
Lori,
I will also never forget my visit to your house. That's where I saw King's Golden Treasure for the very first time. One of the
Right.
best daylily photos I've ever taken was at your house.
Well, that's neat. That's neat.
It is. Yeah, that was a great visit. And that was after a rainstorm too. Pam and Luann had us out in the rain.
I don't remember. So that was probably at the, was that during one of the, wasn't at National, right?
It was the show. We were there
at
for the show.
Right. Hmm. I remember the National, we did 2006, talking
Yeah.
about personalities. The day before, there was a knock on my door, and it was Mary Collier Fisher.
Oh dear.
I almost had a cow.
An actual calf.
Yes, because she was writing the Region 4 Daylily Journal at the time, and it was like a celebrity had come to my door, and I'll never I was only on an open garden, and I had all these people there, the Jeff Coates, and I had Julie Covington was there, and I don't know, a lot of personalities. But then all of a sudden, Melanie Mason comes whipping down the driveway in her Jeep, and all this dirt is flying because the driveway, and the dirt is flying, and she gets out, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Melanie Mason in my garden, you know? That's one of the most fun things. And going to my first convention when the Stamillies were there, and all the big names, you know, that
Oh yeah.
Kurt Hansen and all these people are getting up to get their awards. And it was the most boring thing, but I was starstruck by all these people. And I went with Melanie Vassallo.
Oh
And
yeah.
she knew everybody. So she took me around, and I got to meet all these personalities, Dave and Mort and all these people. And it was just quite an experience.
You said Mort. I remember the first time I met Mort, I somehow ended up eavesdropping on a conversation that he was having, and he turned and he introduced himself to me. He was like, and gosh, this is probably 99, 2000, like 20 years ago. He put out his hand and he said, oh, nice to meet you. I'm Mort Morris. And I was like, oh, I know. Like one of those, you're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Like, I know.
And yeah. I'm sure the young people that are people just getting into daylilies feel the same way still about people that they meet.
Absolutely.
It's just,
I still do.
Oh, I do too. Of course, I still do too.
We have a hand up from Lori. She's been waiting patiently with a question or a comment.
Oh, yay. Lori, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say hi. And of course, I love your presentations and the bubbly and everything. Thank you. Made a great evening.
I'm so glad you got to join us. How's the weather in Michigan? Are you guys still warm? I heard it was kind of a little balmy today.
Up and down. Your typical up and down. Beautiful today. Going to be kind of crepey tomorrow. Couple days. New Halloween's supposed to be kind of cool, or in the 50s. So it's going to be nice for the kids, or whatever happens. Then we bottom out a little bit, and then we go back up. Maybe Indian summer. Who knows?
I was just going to say, maybe you'll get an Indian summer.
Yeah, well, we've finally had a hard frost, although my daylilies aren't showing that.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's so good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. Yeah, I could go on video, but I've had 2 beers. I don't know.
Man, that's the best time to get on video, Lori. You're always better.
Live on YouTube, I'll remind you.
Lori said, cheers.
Kind of like, you're not a good dancer till you've had a few,
Oh yeah,
you're dancing at the bar.
that's the after party Zoom meeting.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've been suffering through 85-degree weather today.
Oh,
It's just
Oh,
terrible.
here's
God.
my
I know. I was out there in shorts and no shoes working in the garden today.
ridiculous. No shoes, even ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I don't wear shoes in the winter either. So
Got my last condolence, Scott. The last one I had to give. You got it for your dealing with that temperature.
Ugh.
Yeah, we really feel sorry for you, Scott.
I know it's horrible. So yeah, the winters here are brutal.
The sympathy, the lack of sympathy for you right now.
We have snow.
Oh, Lois, I saw your photos on Facebook.
Yep.
Where are you, Lotus?
Outside Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
But you should see the pictures. Our region is part of Oklahoma's part of it. And Oklahoma City posted they've had 3 days of ice storms. And our members down there that have nurseries, their trees and everything are just shattered. It's terrible.
I know there's so many things that are going bad. Hey, I'll take 40 degrees. I'll take some rain. I'll take this. And of course, New Orleans getting hit.
Oh, yeah.
And then the fires. Oh, why can't we put the rain where it should be and where it should be, and the snow too?
Yeah, we were just in Gulfport for the board meeting on the weekend and got out of there just in time.
Yeah.
Now they got hit by the hurricane tonight.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we got out of there on Sunday and
I saw that today. I was
came in quickly.
That's scary.
Yeah, Debbie texted me and she says, like on Sunday morning, she's like, you're not gonna believe this, but there's another hurricane coming towards us.
Yeah, I asked her,
Oh,
I had a couple of follow-up questions for her and on the auction we had and some other stuff. She's like, I am up to my elbows. You can just, I'll get you in a couple of days, so she was dealing, I guess.
No, they
We
got
didn't have to worry about it.
over and over. Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. Well, Jacob, I don't want to monopolize all your time on your Zoom call tonight. I don't know if you have some other business or if anybody else has questions. I could chat all evening.
And we could listen all evening.
That's for darn
I have-
sure.
Thanks for doing this, Nikki.
Who is that? Is that Rebecca?
Yes,
Hi, sweet girl. How are you?
I'm all right. I only caught the end of this, but I'm glad I saw the link for it. This was nice.
Oh, how fun to have you. I'm glad you came over.
It will be living for posterity's sake on YouTube, and if I can download it, I'll upload it to our Heart of Illinois Daylily Society Facebook page too. But I know it'll live on YouTube forever, Rebecca, so you're welcome to go back and catch the rest of it too. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Jacob, what's the psychedelic lights in the background?
That's just my gadget, Leighton House.
And is there
I
a
just
way to
have
see?
cycling some colors.
Are you keeping us from seeing gallery view because we have Nikki's slide up there?
As long as Nikki is presenting, it does do that. Yeah, that's
Oh,
just,
okay.
Let me get
I
out.
wanted to see who
Nikki
else
for
was
that.
here.
I'll get out of sharing.
we got a few
It's
more.
okay,
cameras
we're
on.
probably all getting out anyway, so.
Does anybody else have any
Here
questions?
we are. There we are.
I didn't know I was preventing that. Well, I can still see all your faces. There's Rebecca. Now I see her.
There she is.
Hi, Marie.
Rhonda hasn't moved in
And
hours.
Rebecca,
There's
you're muted.
Roberta. How nice.
There's
There you
Rhonda.
go, that's better.
Rhonda.
Hi. Rhonda's worked out today.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that.
No, I want to see what success looks like, lady. We got to see the workout. I didn't have any success today with working out. So you did it. Good for you.
She probably did enough for all of us.
I'd heard she was lifting something. I mean, I lifted like the wine cooler. That was the extent of my drama today. So I'm not.
My trainer
deadlifting.
was not kind.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I need one of those.
That's Les Mills. They'll
Yeah.
kill you every time.
That's exactly what it is.
Every
I know.
time. Murder.
I don't want that either.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you all so much for coming. We were excited to have the opportunity to do this since we weren't able to meet together in person. I look forward to hosting more of these for the Heart of Illinois Daylily Society, because why not? We will gladly make these public for everyone who wants to join from wherever you may be. I know Edvinus from Lithuania was planning to try to stay up tonight to tune in live, but luckily it's going to be safe for him to watch later. Our friends that are far-flung, that don't have clubs local to them, they really look forward to things and opportunities like this. So if your club is thinking about doing something, those of you that are not here in Peoria with me, if your club is thinking about doing something and you'd like some help putting together a Zoom or something like that, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to enable you to do something like this with your club because, like I said, it benefits everyone who has the opportunity to tune in either live or later. So thank you all again. Thank you, Nikki, so much. I love every second of that. I would watch it 10 more times just tonight before I go to bed if there was enough time. So thank you for all your time and effort in putting that together for us. We really appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you guys for coming. It's wonderful to see you. Thanks for coming.
Nice seeing you too. Nice seeing everybody. Bye.
Hi, everyone.
All right. Good night.
Happy Wednesday. Bye.